table a little while ago, that the public is seeing the inside of how legislation is done. It's messy, it's mean,
Yeah.
it's difficult, it's long and drawn out, and it's turning off a lot of people. It's frustrating and tiring them, but in some ways I think it's important for them to understand how it's done, because they just take it for granted. Personally, I'm a little angry that the public has to do this much work to get it done, but on the other side, I also think it's our job. That the public has just sat back and said, go do it for so long, and then felt that they could complain that they didn't like the end result. And if we want to see it done the way we want, we have to let them know. Elected officials know who hires them. It's the voters. It's not the national voters, it's the voters in their district or their state. And if they hear from us, they will change their vote or they will respond. And we saw it in the healthcare legislation early on. Dianne Feinstein was standoffish on the public option.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't sure about it. She was concerned about the cost. They were all legitimate concerns. We were a little frustrated that she was airing them publicly on national talk shows, and because she's influential. So we encouraged people to contact her. And what the Obama campaign, or OFA, decided to do was ask people all over the country to share your personal health care stories with your elected officials, so they know what your problems are, because they have good health care. They don't experience an insurer denying them coverage for a pre-existing condition, or putting a cap on their lifetime allowance, or dropping them for any made-up reasons. The grievances are so huge, but they don't see that. They're in a rarefied world. So we wanted them to hear from their voters. So we were telling people, share your story, your personal story. Write letters, make calls, show up at their office, make an appointment and come in and see them and tell them. Well, of course, Senator Feinstein became the focal point of a lot of this. We knew Jackie Spear was supportive. We needed to call her and let her know that we're encouraging her, because the people who weren't supporting it were also calling her, and she has to justify her vote. And we knew Barbara Boxer was in favor of it. So we, let me see if I have, one of the things I made was, thought I'd bring some of these to share with you. This is the third version of these, but we made postcards that voters could, these were semi-pre-written. You could put your own personal information or your return address. The first version had more room for people to tell their personal story. But the idea was and literally, probably 15,000 of these have been sent statewide, and most of them were sent to Senator Feinstein, but you could send them to anyone you wanted. Oh, sure.
What's more, do they carry more weight than the email campaign?
From what I've been told by staffers, handwritten cards and letters do carry more weight than anything else. Letters, the most. We resorted to the postcards to make it easy. And volunteers, myself included, spent hundreds of dollars to pay for postage. We thought, you write it, you sign it, I'll mail it. That way I'm sure it gets mailed. It wasn't required, it was just I was passionate about making sure these got mailed. Yeah.
I asked Jackie Spear relatively recently if that's still held, and she said one handwritten letter is worth 100.
That's,
yes.
Oh, okay.
That was why I did this. It was a woman that used to work for Nancy Pelosi that I had heard mention that, and sort of triggered that. There are some volunteers that would have pre-written letters that people could sign, and they would go to farmers markets or a gold mine for tabling, and they'd get, hundreds of those signed. Now, they were form letter, but it was still the volume. But what we did with sending people to Senator Feinstein's office to tell their story had such impact that in San Francisco, she actually took some of her younger staffers and they camped out in the lobby of the building to do intake. And it was almost like town hall meetings there, because so many people were showing up. They couldn't get their work done, so they were literally doing it in the lobby. And at one point last summer, she contacted the White House political office and said, make this stop, make it go away. My staff can't get their work done. All these people are coming in and calling, stop. And they said, gee, we're sorry, but that's the public's right.
Amen.
So the end result is, and we've all seen this before, with her in particular, that if the voters voice their desire, she will respond. So she's now not only supporting the public option, she's waving the flag on it, which is wonderful. So a couple of weeks ago, we had the vote in the House. Now, I've got some handouts if somebody wants to pass those around. Also, if you want to wear one of these today, this was something I created last August during the town hall meetings where they were so raucous that we knew that there were people who supported the legislation at those meetings that were intimidated by the people shouting. But they may not know that the person sitting next to them feels the same way they do. And they might not know that they actually outnumbered the people that were demonstrating. So I thought, what can we do to subtly let people feel that they're not alone, that they're in the majority, and also let the media see that there are more supporters here than detractors. So I just went to the Office Depot and got mailing labels and made these, and if any of you came to any of the Jackie Spear town halls, you may have been given one to wear. And so we felt it was effective for people to feel that they weren't alone and that they were in the majority and it was okay to speak up. So I now use them at almost every event, and sometimes I'll wear them all day. So it starts a dialogue. You go somewhere and someone says, what's with the sticker? And you say, oh, I'm supporting healthcare reform, and you start talking one-on-one. Sorry, there's a question.
I just had a question about, the kind of globalization of corporations, like they grow by doubling up. How many insurance companies are there? I mean, not like little guys, but like parent, is it like 2 or 3? Or,
yeah.
Do you know how many actual?
That's a good question, but I don't know the answer to that. I'm actually not an expert on this, and some of the information I'm passing out, I haven't had time to read carefully myself as well, but it looked to me to be some definitive information that I think, more specifics that would be helpful. I don't know on the number of insurance companies, and it varies from state to state as who has license in that state to offer insurance in that state. So, and it's up to, I guess, the insurance commissioner in each state. Where we are today is, how many here watched the vote a couple of weeks ago in the House? I was supposed to be phone banking, and I was in bed with a migraine headache, and so I couldn't do that, but it was actually a blessing because I had C-SPAN on all day. And to watch the process, to me, was fascinating. This president is teaching me patience every day, and it's a lesson that I have to relearn every day. Because I'm one of those passionate people that says, I want to get this done. The heck with the Republicans. Don't play their game. Just ram it through and get it done.
Here, here.
In my heart, I feel exactly the same way, and I say it a lot. But I remember during the campaign when he campaigned on changing the tone in Washington. And he came in and he started with that approach, and of course the Republicans were lying in wait that they were going to do everything they could to trip him up and stop him. Most of us said, okay, you see their colors, they're not going to change, just ram it through. He has continued to go steady, but